one of the places a lot of our money has been going lately, and that's Iraq. What are your views about the war in Iraq and where we should be going with that?
Well, I'm on record going back to 2002 as having opposed the attack on Iraq because I didn't believe that Saddam Hussein presented an imminent threat to the United States. And I would certainly approve of any plan that would bring our troops back as expeditiously as possible and replace it with a multinational force. I don't think we can achieve any real long-term goal. Our presence there, I think, is really inciting various groups more and more against the United States, and it's not in our best interest to stay there.
Do you think the Iraqi government's ready to deal with governing on their own, or the very limited U.S.?
I think there's, as far as they'll get, we have to give them that chance, and we need to really maybe have a referendum to see how the people there feel. As far as some people suggested, tripartition between the groups of various structures of government. You can't impose with democracies or forms of government on groups of people. We have to be receptive to their own native customs and cultures and let them try to work it out. And at the same time, we shouldn't be planning on getting into any other conflicts in Iran, which I
was going to ask you about Iran, because the next one, it's the next one on the list, apparently.
Yes. I'm very, when some people say that we want to get the troops back, I'm very, I'm hoping they don't want the troops back so they can go from Iraq, so they can just short-circuit the troops to Iran. And I'm very much concerned about a bill that Nita Lowey co-sponsored, H.R. 362, which many people believe legitimizes a blockade of petroleum products from Iran, which would mean American ships essentially inspecting ships going to Iran, which could provoke a military conflict, which we really don't need at this time.
Now, many viewers are probably not familiar with H.R. 362. What does it provide? What's the purpose
right.
of it?
It was introduced following a meeting of Representatives Berman, Polcy, Lowey, Engels, and Ackerman, I believe it was, with Prime Minister Olmert on a trip to Israel in May of this year, and some of the Israeli papers reported that he had mentioned that this would be a good idea for the United States to have a blockade of Iran, and also to make it more difficult for Iranian civilians to travel internationally. And within 2 or 3 days of returning to the United States, Mr. Ackerman introduced this legislation, H.R. 362. Which
Congressman Ackerman. Yeah.
Right.
Gary
Ackerman. Some people suspect that this was prepared by AIPAC, the lobby in this country. This legislation was given to him to introduce, or if he wrote it on his own. But it almost mirrors what was discussed in Israel by these Congress persons when they were there. And he introduced it, and about 2 weeks later, Nita Lowey came on as a co-sponsor, and within a month or two, there were a majority of signatories as co-sponsors, but then a number of people started taking their sponsorship away from it because a number of congresspersons were looking at it and they said, gee, this really is quite dangerous. It expresses the sense of Congress to proceed with this type of a blockade of Iran. So it's still in committee now. Some people think it might be revised, but it is dangerous legislation, I believe, and I would not support it.
What do you think we should do about the threat that Iran poses in obtaining or developing nuclear weapons? Should we just leave it alone, or should we? What should we do if not military action, or if not some sort of sanctions or blockade sanctions or some other punitive measures short of military measures?
Are we going to be able to prevent any other country from developing nuclear capabilities? I don't think that's realistic. We've had problems in the past with the Soviet Union. We've had a leader there, Nikita Khrushchev. I remember him saying, coming here, we will bury you. And yet we were able to eventually work out our situation with the Soviet Union. We have a problem, I think a greater problem, with North Korea. Has not only the nuclear capabilities, but also has a delivery system that could actually reach the United States. And we don't seem to be very equally concerned about that threat. So I don't believe that we should be really that much focused on sanctions, and I think that we should negotiate with Iran and try and come to an understanding.
So should we try to combine negotiation with any kind of sanctions, or should we just go with negotiation?
I think negotiations. We're putting, I think, pressure on Europe and other countries to go along with sanctions, and it's interesting that the countries that are closer to Iran don't seem to have the same fear that we do, and we're 6,000 miles away from Iran. I think a lot of this, the concern about Iran is being driven by AIPAC, the Israel lobby. It's the Israeli lobby in the United States, which is very influential. I'm in favor of a much more limited foreign involvement, especially militarily, for the United States. I think we have enough problems here in the United States that we have to deal with. We can't be sending billions in military aid, whether it's to Israel, Egypt, Jordan. These types of aid programs just make us more of a target for terrorism, I believe. Sometimes they're used for things like cluster bombs, which just bring death and destruction to children. And the money, especially at these times, could certainly be used better here in the United States.